All right, thank you for joining us today to talk about getting started with Helm. I want to turn it over to Fern to kick us off.
So, hey everyone. All right. So today I'm going to be going over getting started with Helm, where I'm just going to kind of dive into what Helm is, how it works, and how you can use it manually, how you can use it within the GitLab CI, as well as how you can actually use GitLab as a Helm repository. So, and that was something that was released as of 14.1. Actually having your Helm charts and using GitLab as that Helm repository, being able to save all the Helm charts as a tar file. So I'll go over a little bit about that, but just to kind of tell you a little bit about myself, if you haven't seen me or met me before, I work for the marketing department, and I'm specifically in technical marketing. So I'll provide demos, presentations, knowledge sharing, and all kinds of solutions, to help us better use our product. So just to give a quick introduction. So just to get a raise of hands, how many of you have actually used Helm in a project? And you don't have to turn on your camera, just put like a little thumbs up reaction within like this. Okay, perfect. So a couple of you have used that. So with that said, let's get started with the presentation. So let me share my screen. And let me change my camera as well. Okay, perfect. So y'all can see this?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so just to start off, this is a picture of me actually sailing. So I am right here in the middle of the boat, and this was the Frostbite Regatta here that we have here in Austin. So we placed second out of 5 boats. So I do like sailboat racing back when, when that was a more active community about 2 years ago. So this picture's from about 2 years ago. And I'll show some pictures of me and some yacht racing throughout this presentation. So what are we going to go over? So what is Helm? Helm 2 versus Helm 3. So there's been some changes, mainly on the server side with the different versions of Helm. I'm going to go over a little bit about the architecture of Helm 3, and I'm going to kind of showcase how Helm is used and how you can benefit from it. So what's a helm? So it's a tiller or a wheel and any associated equipment for actually steering the boat or the ship. So that is the literal sense. So this is kind of a stock photo that I got of a helm where you can actually steer that, it'll move the rudder and you can move the ship. So I'm not exactly sure why that was chosen for a package manager for Kubernetes, where that name was chosen, but interesting name. Maybe it steers you into deploying things onto Kubernetes. So what it is it'll manage all your packages in the sense where right now Kubernetes is the way that you deploy things can be very tedious, because you have to define so many different things to deploy an application. For example, you can deploy the actual deployment that deploys the pods. You can define the service to expose it in the internal network. You can define the ingress to expose it to the external network, and you may need to change all these values per environment. So what ends up happening with Helm is that it makes it easy. You just have a values.yaml file that you can kind of edit per environment, and then you run the Helm commands and it'll install all these different Kubernetes manifests required. So just to continue with the bullet points, it allows you to use commands to install and update Kubernetes YAMLs. So instead of having like 20 YAMLs, you have one Helm chart that has those YAMLs, and then you can just update one file. And by updating that one file, it makes it easier to manage your deployments. And this is mainly done for large deployments and making them done in an organized manner. So you can have multiple Helm charts that you're using on your cluster, for example, Nginx. Let's say you have Nginx. Let's say you have your proprietary application. Let's say you have Fluentd for logging. So you can easily maintain and manage all that and be able to change the values per environment. So Helm 2 versus Helm 3. So there are migration guides with Helm 2 and Helm 3. I would say that Helm 3 is a lot better and more secure because it removes Tiller. And what Tiller was pretty much the server that would interact with the Helm client. So it would need to be an additional item that was installed within your Kubernetes cluster. And that server would then perform the functions of actually deploying the application. So it would be a client server model where the client would ask the Tiller server to see if it's okay to deploy these things, and then Tiller would go ahead and deploy them. And you had to work with permissions and making sure you set everything up securely. And a lot of people weren't setting up those permissions securely, and Tiller also had access to a lot of the Kube API, so it caused some security issues there. So Helm 3, it was decided to actually remove Tiller. And and then some other differences that are smaller, like just there's some different commands and some different ways of packaging the charts. So I would just recommend use Helm 3 and then find documentation on migrating from Helm 2 to Helm 3 if you have applications running on the older Helm. And a lot of the new GitLab charts, which I'll get into, are actually using Helm 3 or provide Helm 3 as part of the actual container image. So just to show you how simple the architecture for Helm is, pretty much what happens is you'll have the Helm chart registry that contains all your different Helm charts. And that's something that you can do with GitLab now. As of 14.1, you can put all your Helm charts in the Helm registry for the application. And then all you can do is you can run a Helm command to request that Helm chart. And if you have the correct permissions to that Helm chart registry, you'll receive the Helm chart. And then you can go ahead and apply that to the Kubernetes cluster. So as long as you have the correct permissions, and one way is personal access token, CI/CD token, and we'll get all into that when I showcase this live with the CL Live. So once you install Helm, you can use Helm commands just like you would use kubectl. You can create your own Helm chart to deploy the application and change values and all that, as I've said. So let's kind of just actually, let me just show you the next slide before I get into that. So, and then the way that you would use Helm in the GitLab CI is you would use a container image that already has Helm installed. For example, I'm using this image that's provided within the cluster integration for GitLab, and it already has Helm 3 installed. And then when I'm running the script, what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to run Helm upgrade, and I'm going to use the values.yaml file, and I'm going to set the image to what I have defined here. So you can actually change different values within the actual command line. And I'm going to install it. I'm going to name it notes, and I'm going to install it from the Helm folder. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like now. So if I go to project, so I'll go to this simple notes. So here in the GitLab CI, you can see that I'm performing that Helm upgrade with Helm values.yaml and that Helm directory. So let's go into that Helm directory. And when I look at this Helm directory, you can see these are the values that I have. So there's port, target port, host, which can be overwritten or new ones can be added. But essentially what that does is, if you look at this notes.yaml, you can see that I'm grabbing the values.image, I'm grabbing the values.target port from either the command line or the values.yaml file. And then I'm applying it to this actual deployment. That's what I'm saying. Like this would be, let's say, for a staging environment, but depending on what values.yaml you have, I can have different GitLab, I can have different jobs that changes the values.yaml. So I can have multiple different values.yaml files here. So I can have one for staging, for production, for dev environments. And having all those there, I can easily just apply which one I want to whichever environment I want via the GitLab CI YAML. So pretty much what Helm does is it'll just go ahead and install whatever's in this templates directory. So install all these different deployments that I have, and then it'll overwrite things that I need overridden. So see, this has nothing to overwrite from values.yaml. So install it as is. But you can see that this one does actually overwrite things from values.yaml. So that's something very basic that can be done with Helm. Just maintain all these things in a much easier way, and then just have GitLab deploy it within the GitLab CI YAML by just running the Helm commands. And these Helm commands can just be run. So if I just go here, let me just share the whole screen actually. So now you see my terminal. So if I do a Helm just command, you can see all the commands I have. And let's see, depending on what's running on my cluster, I can just do a Helm ls. And it'll show there's nothing there, but I don't think I actually have a cluster selected. So let's see. So if I do Helm ls, okay, there's nothing on this cluster. But so you would just use the Helm commands to see what exactly is on the cluster and what you can do. Let's see if I have a cluster or something on it. Okay, well, let's I'll just move on since I don't have anything on my cluster. So and the way, let me see what cluster this is actually on. So if I go to infrastructure, Kubernetes clusters, this is deploying to DevSecOps local Fern. Okay, so cloud. DevSecOps local Fern. Okay, I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it. Okay, normally, oh, maybe all namespaces. Okay, so yeah, because I was only looking at the default namespace. So if you can see here, you can see that I can see and manage my deployments within all my namespaces. So you can see that this is what was deployed. It's been deployed 15 times, so it keeps getting revised every time that the job is run. And the chart is called notes1, and we can continuously update the version and different things by changing also what's in chart.yaml. So I can update the version, the app version, and different information about it. So going back to the presentation, the next thing that you can do that's part of GitLab 14 is you can actually publish and share packaged Helm charts. So GitLab can be actually used as a Helm repository. And I have instructions and kind of video links on how to actually do this. But just to kind of show you what can be done, when I go here and I actually go to my packages, I can go to my package registry. And you can see that I have a Helm package here that was manually published yesterday with notes, which is the Simple Notes application that I pushed up using the GitLab API. So what I can do with that is, I saved some commands here in the notes just for you to get started. So you can actually package the chart. So I said Helm package, and then this is the Helm chart location. I just had it called Helm, but Helm chart location. And then what you do is you send a request you send a request to the GitLab API with your project ID /packages/helm. And what you do is you use your username and personal access token. And what it'll do is it'll upload that file. And then what you can do now is if you perform Helm repo ls, you'll actually have that repo available, and you can actually just do a Helm install and call that repo without, you won't have to like actually git clone the project or do any of that. You can just manually deploy it into your cluster or use automation to deploy it into your cluster by just calling the Helm repo command. So what that looks like is I can do Helm repo ls, and you can see that I have the GitLab from when I actually installed GitLab onto a Kubernetes cluster. But you also see that I have the Simply Simple Notes repo that I can download from that URL. So repo, and I can always see help like what else is there. But you can update, you can remove things, you can list different things. And you can just get a bunch of different information on the items. So if I do Helm repo, let's say simple notes, I don't know if I can do that. Okay, so Helm repo. And then you would do like a Helm install, and install the file from the actual Helm repo. So I provided kind of documentation on how to do these things. So there's a usage video, there's the Helm repository documentation that you can go to here to actually add your token and publish it. And so see, when you do the Helm repo add, you'll add that repository, but then you can install the item using Helm install once it's been added to the repository. So saying that, that's my quick introduction to Helm, how it works, and how it can be used and leveraged, and the new feature within GitLab 14.1. I'd like to kind of turn it over to just a question and answer session and kind of go over any thoughts and any questions y'all might have on using Helm. So let me stop sharing, and let's make this more of a dialogue. So
I don't see any questions in the doc, so it's open floor.
Hey, Fern, this is Samir. Great presentation. Thank you for putting this together. Quick question that I have is what you were displaying there with regards to the app that you created. You have a Helm folder with some chart and values and things. Mm-hmm. Could you, in the context of the new Helm repository functionality, could you describe to me if what you have in that Helm folder could be in a repository and how that would be? Just curious if that's something that you thought of doing or how that might work.
Yes, so I can explain how the process would work. So let me go back into sharing. So in this case, the way that it can be done would be and within this Helm folder, I would have a job that would, every time that there's an update, I will have a job that builds a tar file from this Helm file. So kind of to show you how it would work, if I go back to this presentation, if you look at here, see how there is a Helm package command, right? So what I would do is if I go to the Simply Simple Notes, right? And I see that Helm folder, what I can do is if I package that Helm folder, right? You can see that there's going to be this file right here. So there's going to be this notes.tjz. So what I can do is in my actual project where I performed the GitLab command for Helm, instead of actually using that directory, I can directly just call Helm and install it via the package that exists here in this package registry. So what I can have done is I can have a separate job that always does the Helm package, and it'll keep packaging the different items. And now anyone with access to this repository can easily just like link the repository and add it. So what this is good for is kind of making guides and having official versions so that someone doesn't need to actually clone the project and work through that to be able to actually install it on their system. So like the way that Nginx and these other like bigger tools that everyone's using work is that instead of actually cloning Nginx and then deploying it, what people will do is they'll do a Helm repo add. They'll add the Nginx Helm repository that contains all the Helm charts, and then they'll run Helm install Nginx from that Helm chart. So they don't need to clone and constantly update stuff and update values directly. They just kind of do it all through one interface. And then they can have that in their CI/CD jobs, and they're constantly getting the newest updates. So that's the main reasoning behind this, is to have it easy for users to get updates and not having to work with the actual code itself. If that makes sense. Did that answer your question, Samir?
Yes, thank you, Fern. That was perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Fern, as a follow-up to that, so from a business value standpoint or a DevOps standpoint, it's a single source of truth, and it's maintained by one. It's maintained centrally. Is that the idea, right? You're not making clones of this. You're going to one central Helm package repo to get that central copy, right?
Correct. I would see it in the term of a release. So let's say for example, I'm a company in bestbuy.com, for example, and I have like a container that checks for all the newest video cards that are coming out, right? And it installs in the Kubernetes cluster. So now I know that I can update that software and do everything through Helm and install it. And I know that I'm getting it from the official source. I don't have to constantly be looking at Best Buy's code base to get the updates. I can just update the chart via Helm itself. So it makes it easier depending on the tool that you're using. It just makes it easier to install different things into Kubernetes.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Are we as GitLab using this? I mean, I'm pretty sure we've got Helm charts galore, right? For a lot of what we do. Are we starting to also get into the package registry to provide it that way, as opposed to go to this repo, get the Helm charts, and do your thing?
So good question. So as part of the release notes, so the team that did produce this is actually going to start dog fooding this feature.
Ah, there you go.
So it'll probably take a few releases for it to be kind of really active and really being used. But I think moving forward, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Nice. And is it similar to other package registries that in your pipeline you can say, I want anything, 2.x, I don't want 3 yet, and I don't want 1.x because it's too old, and 3.x is too blazing. Is that kind of functionality in there, like we do with like Maven repos and stuff, that you can kind of wild card your way into a certain range? Is that sort of thing also is part of the same concept?
So the same concept exists. It just has, since we're actually calling the Helm command in the CI/CD, we have to configure that. You can do it, but it just has to be configured by the user.
Got it. Okay, so that wild carding has to be done sort of in a scripted format, or do we have something in our pipeline that actually can give a range?
It'll have to be in a scripted format.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking that's kind of how package registries I've seen in the past are used, right? You give it a range and say, hey, anything in this range is valid. I don't need to know that it's 2.6. It could be 2.7. I don't care. As long as it's 2 dot something, it's compatible with what I need. So I could see that being advantageous.
You might be able to do it in the actual Helm chart itself. If you do like a Helm So when you, because like it's the same thing, let's say like in Python, for example, like you have that requirements.txt file. And then
Right,
that
right.
requirements.txt file, you can specify greater than 3, but less than 4. So to pick up
Exactly.
whatever the newest thing is. So that's what you're saying. Like, can you do
Yeah.
that? There's probably a thing on the Helm command that lets you do that. So I haven't done that. But if I
Okay.
do Helm upgrade, and let's say I just do help, right? There should be a way of actually setting what values that you want to pick up between what and what. See, so version, specify the exact version to use. So you can do that right now. You can specify the version and say like, I want version 1, 2, 3, and you would have to see how kind of items are set up. But I think it'll always just pick the newest one. And you can always script it, but I don't think it works off the bat.
Nice. Is there competition? Like, who else does Helm repos? Like, does Artifactory or Nexus? Like, what would we expect in the field if we are like, we have this? Is someone going to shoot us down with, well, Artifactory's been doing that for a year?
I mean, anyone can pretty much do it. Like I can just buy a bunch of servers and just make it a Helm repository, but I'm not sure who's actually selling it as a service. Like we're just including it as part of, as part of GitLab that you can push everything to your project, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we're offering it to everyone. Like there's different vendors that do that. Let me see, Helm chart repository.
It's always good to know sort of who your competitors are, so at least you're not blindsided with, well, so and so does this cool feature. You're like, okay, well, we'll work on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that can do it. I mean, yeah, it's pretty easy thing to set up. Like I can set it up in my house and then I can sell this service to y'all if you want.
Fern, you're such a hustler.
But yeah, look, so you can see here, and let me just put this. This is Helm's information as to who. Here, let me put in the chat. Helm's information as to who uses what Helm registries you can get. So Google Cloud Storage, Cloudsmith, Artifactory.
Oh, there's Artifactory. Yep. Of course, GitHub has it.
Yeah, GitHub, ordinary web servers. Pretty much anyone can offer it. It's just cool that we offer it to make it easier for for developers.
Yeah.
Could we look to get added onto that page?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, honestly, that's a good idea. Now it's something new that we've offered now, so honestly, it's something that we can actually be part of now.
Cool.
So I think it's a good point. Put it in the note. Whoever's typing on the notes, put it in the notes. See if we can get it kind of there.
The link that you put in chat.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm sure you can probably edit this like through open source. Yeah, contribute to the doc. So good point. Maybe after this call, I'll add our stuff. That's a good point.
Yeah, Sid will love you. You can tell him to retweet it.
Yeah, nice. I mean, it is Microsoft. Helm is a Microsoft product that's maintained by Microsoft. So let's see how they feel about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, along the lines of Ken, with regards to to Helm, what if some customers are using like Docker Hub and all of that? Is that going to conflict with the Helm, or is Helm better than Docker Hub? Or
they're used for different reasons. So Docker Hub, and that is a container repository, so that stores the container images. This stores our Helm chart, so it stores like the metadata, I guess you can think of, that's used to actually deploy everything, right? So you would still you would need them both together, right? Because like let's say you have your application image in the container registry, but then you have your charts on how you deploy that application in the Helm registry.
In the Helm, okay.
So then like you're using both of them together, like when you're deploying it via Helm, Helm's looking to see where your container image is as well, and then you're using all that together. So
which is why it's super awesome that for us to have one built in, because you don't have to go find one somewhere else, and you can now be more single app, right? single application for the whole process, because now you don't have to go out to Docker and then go out to somebody else's registry to get that piece and be pulling from all over the place. Now you got it in one spot, which is nice.
Yeah, I would say makes it easier to maintain, makes it faster, it's all in one place. So it adds a lot of benefit in that. So it just makes it easier for the developer in general. If you want to make something official, like let's say Nginx was using GitLab and they had everything on GitLab, they can easily just put the charts all there, and then everyone can just add it easily and be able to deploy it into their application. That's just an easy example.
Okay, thanks.
You look more official when you're having everything like in one place like that. It just adds to how official something looks and how clean something is.
And I take it we can use all of our roles and permissions and all that good stuff so that we can have, an owner of that registry that has permissions to, make changes, update it, versus users that can pull from it but can't contribute to it, just like all our other registry type stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure this is something new, so I don't know what's exactly been implemented in. I haven't had a chance to play. Right now, I know that you need a personal access token with a certain scope to be able to access it. And since personal access tokens are, you can also make a CI/CD token and all of that. And I think you're able to actually specify a role within that token, so you can have it limited to doing certain things and not doing certain things. So that's a good question, though. I'd have to play around with it a little bit more to see the whole permissions part of it.
From what I understand, it's using the same package registry architecture that was being used for all the other package registries. So it's the same substructure underneath it. I think permissions are inherent in there.
Yeah, that would make sense. And it's project-based, right? So everything that's project-based would probably get applied in terms of roles, like Samir said.
Yeah, it is project-based, so yeah.
All right, any more questions?
Yeah, it's project-based, and it is also exposed at the group level. Now, Fern, do you know if Helm charts are available at the group level yet, or is it just at the project level? Do you know?
I believe it's just at the project level, because you actually, when you're actually pushing up a Helm chart, you actually need to specify the project, and that's the only way to do it right now. So it's strictly at the project level.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I don't know if there. I mean, I'm sure there is an intention to get it to the group level. I know that that there's going to be additional metadata for the charts, and there's going to be dog fooding of that as the next iteration of this feature. But after that, I'm not sure exactly what the plans are. These are for the next releases. So yeah, no, I'd be happy to stay on if there's any more questions.
Cool.
All right, if there's no more questions, happy to give you all the time back.
All right, perfect. Well, yeah, thanks everybody for attending, and hope you enjoyed this session. So
yeah, thanks, Fern.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
bye.
Yep.
Thanks, Fern. Awesome.
Thanks, Fern. Great stuff.
Bye, everybody.